You have been lied to by everybody you know. You see, we never for one moment question the nature of our reality. We just assume that everybody is on the same page, and we're not. We are most certainly not on the same page. As spiritual teacher Mooji once said, there is one earth, but there are billions of worlds. And the reason this is because reality is filtered through our minds. So it is not possible to see the real world, but we can only perceive reality according to the information that is in our minds. And so whatever information is in your mind, that is your world. And the good news is that you can change your mind. And so the reason that you have been lied to is because everybody says the world is this way or things are that way, and they are not. When somebody says something is true, it is true for them, but it doesn't mean that it is true for you. You might say it's a competitive world, it's a dog-eat-dog world. You have to struggle and fight for your survival, or else somebody else is going to come along and take what you have. And it is easy to believe that that is the true nature of reality. But that is but one world out of billions. You see, for the past, since the beginning of time, hundreds and hundreds of millions of years, we have lived in unity with nature. At the base level of reality, life is a meat grinder of death. If you've ever seen a nature documentary, you would know this. But there's a big difference between animals and human beings. You see, if a rabbit gets mauled by a bear, it is not worrying beforehand about getting mauled, and it does not ruminate on the past about the time it was almost mauled. It is always in the present moment, and when bad things happen, it just moves on or it dies. But human beings have a mind that can remember. So we can bring the past into the present, and we can also bring the future into the present, and that can be bad or good. But do you see the problems that human beings have? We exist in the meat grinder while being conscious of it. We are aware that life is suffering and there is misery and death all around us. Now, isn't that scary? This story was told in the book of Genesis, when in the beginning we were one with all things. We were one with God. Because we developed powerful minds, we entered into a state of separation. Because the mind is a tool that allows us the sensation of having an individual self. So we fell out of unity into separation and into the realization that life is a meat grinder. But this is not the end of the story. In fact, the end of this story has yet to be written. Perhaps it is being written now. And that is the rise of mankind. We fell from unity into separation, and once again we will rise back into unity. Except this time we will not be as animals, but we will be as higher consciousness beings. People talk about a new earth, and this is what it means. It means that you no longer have to live a lie, that life is a struggle of death and suffering. You are not a slave to the animal kingdom in which you have to fight and claw and kill your way to success, but that God's abundance is infinite, that there is no such thing as scarcity other than what you believe in your own mind, that you have the power to create any life that you desire regardless of the external circumstances. Now, how much different is this world compared to the world that most are living in? Most do not know how to make ends meet. They barely scrape by month to month and worry and have fear about everything. Even those who are able to gather resources, they are still a slave. Do you think that the rich suddenly do not have problems because they are rich? That is the false mentality of the poor. You think that because money is the root of all problems, that once you have money, all your problems go away. But you are still a slave no matter what, no matter how much resources you gather in this life. Because there is no resource, there is only dust. All things in this world are dust. It doesn't matter how big a sandcastle you build during the day. The next morning, the ocean tide will come and wash it away with the same effort as it washes away all the other smaller sandcastles. And that is no effort at all. It doesn't matter if you live to be 100 years, if you live to be 10,000 years, if you live to be 1,000,000 years old. Time will still wash you away with no effort at all. And so the lie that we have all been told is that you can find lasting satisfaction in a temporary world. Or because you lack something of this world, you cannot be happy. You cannot be peaceful. You must buy this. You must go on vacation. But even on vacation, you still have to bring yourself along for the ride. And if you are a slave in the mind, you will always be a slave. Even if you're in the tallest penthouse, you cannot escape yourself. But you can be in the lowest prison and be absolutely free, because the only prison in existence is in your own mind. And so, if you wish to shift to this new world, you only have to recognize the truth and see through the illusion of separation, because that is the root of all suffering. Because when we live a lie, we are separated from the truth. And this truth is life, it is light, it is God. And hell is separation from God. Darkness is separation from the light. Suffering is separation from peace, love, and joy. Slavery is the opposite of freedom. And so in this dark world, bad things happen to good people. There is great war and suffering and death, and you always have to be afraid, because the rulers of this dark world are evil, and you obey and bow down to their law or die. You fall under the jurisdiction of the animal kingdom, and so therefore you have to struggle and survive. But in the recognition of the truth, of the unity of all things, that there is only abundance and never scarcity, you enter into a much more loving and harmonious world. And it doesn't matter what the external circumstances look like, because you will be free. Anything that you desire, you can have. You can have all the love, the joy, the peace in the world. You do not have to compete with anybody. I mean, you can compete with yourself to become better today than you were yesterday. But just imagine for a moment this world of infinite abundance, where all things are possible, where you don't have to have fear or worry or concern about anything. Does this not sound like paradise to you? Well, that is because it is. And how difficult a belief to have that the true nature of reality is paradise. Who can believe this? How is this possible? How can they lie to me like this? You know, it's a funny thing. One time I was sleeping and then I awoke. But I did not awake fully. I was in this very deep state, not unlike sleep paralysis, but it was deeper. And I had no sensation that I had a body at all. I was like a ghost. And I was aware of the space in the room, big space. And I was aware that in the center of where my head would be, there was this sphere, there was this ball. And the only other thing that was present was the most powerful, blissful feeling, more powerful than any emotion that I'd ever had. Now this is the $1,000,000 question. What is this most powerful feeling of overwhelming joy, beyond joy? What is this doing in the state of deep sleep where nobody is around to experience it? Answer me this. We spend our whole lives looking for joy, and yet somehow it eludes us. And yet What this reveals is that this is the default state. I'll give you another example. Another time I had awoken, but it wasn't in such a deep state. It was right on the verge of just waking up normally. And this was during my dark night of the soul, and I was just aware of the presence in my body, and it was very joyful. It was very nice, very comfortable. And the moment my mind awoke, that my mind turned on, I was flooded with the most agonizing, nasty feeling of dread. And what this reveals is that joy is the default state, but when the mind comes along, it steals that joy from us. That peace is our natural state, but when the mind comes along, it steals that peace from us. And you see, all we have been looking for in this life was here already underneath our pillow, before we even got up out of bed in the morning. And we go out into the world and we try to find what we have had all along. You see, infinite abundance is within you already. All of your desires are already yours, because within you is the infinite and eternal, the totality of everything, all love, all joy, all peace. It's all here. The X that marks the spot to the treasure is where you are standing right now. The X is always beneath your feet, and yet we spend our lives looking out, where is my treasure? And so we spend our lives gathering dust that on the surface seems to be valuable. But you can gain the world and lose your soul and you have nothing. But if you find the kingdom of heaven, then everything else will be added onto you. Because everything is already here, but out here, everything is temporary. And so it takes some time to undo the conditioning that we have gathered from this world. We look around and say, no, I don't have what I want yet. This is bad. I really want this, but I don't have it right now. And that is a belief in your mind that is itself keeping you from what you want. Because you cannot exist in a state of lack, of scarcity, and also be in a state of abundance at the same time. You cannot live in illusion and also be living in truth. And so if you stay a slave to the illusion, then you will stay a slave to scarcity, lack, and you will have to strive and struggle your whole life to collect the dust that you are told is the most valuable thing. And it's not that difficult to see. Even the currencies that we use, most of them, if not all of them, have decreased in value since their inception. And yet we give the only thing that is of any value, time, that has decreased in supply since the moment we were born. And energy, our life force, the most valuable resource in existence. We trade all that is of value for nothing. And we spend our whole lives doing so. For what? For no other reason than because we have built the foundation of our life on a lie. A lie told to us to make us a slave so that the beast can continue to siphon and feed off all of our energy. And so they induce fear in the masses so that the beast can continue on. But this system, this world of darkness, will meet its end, and you do not want to be in that world when it does. You want to be in the new world, where we don't have to take advantage of another for our own personal gain, where there is more than enough to go around, because this is the truth. But it begins within you, because we are the vessels for creation, and each one of us casts our vote every day with what world we want to build. And if you don't believe that you can build any world that you want, well then you automatically get pushed into the dark world because you believe a lie. You must have trust and faith in God's abundance, that God, already wants to provide you with all the things that you want, all the things that are good for you. Do you think God does not want you to be happy or peaceful or loving or joyful? Do you think God wants you to live less? Do you think God wants you to struggle to survive? At least if you don't believe in God or have God in your life, well then you've kind of accepted your fate, and everything is on you to figure out. But my God, if you have God in your life, then what are you worrying about all your problems for? You see, the world has gotten you to forget about God by believing in the illusion. Every day it tricks us into being deceived. And it's not really anybody's fault, it's just the way that things are. We are all born into unconsciousness and have to rise up into awareness. You see, if you believe that you are separate and that you are all alone, that weight will crush you to death because it is unbearable for any human being. That is one of the core teachings of A Man's Search for Meaning, where Viktor Frankl was in the concentration camps during World War II. And he saw that the people who lost hope or lost faith or lost trust, those who had nothing to fight for, those who had no greater purpose, they were most certainly destined to die. But those who were fighting for something greater, who focused on the suffering of their brothers and sisters rather than their own suffering, those who believed that it was possible to one day be free, and that God had a greater purpose for them, they most certainly survived.